everyone. We are here to evaluate some FanDuel defenses for Week 7. A much better defensive week than last week, simply put. Yes?
Much better. These
Yeah,
five options, I feel very comfortable using in pretty much all formats.
absolutely. Getting right into it, I think we can look at the Vikings against the Eagles. Is that something you're entertaining in cash games?
Yep, Minnesota's easily the cash game defense of the week. They're scoring the most fantasy points per game this season. All but one game under 10 FanDuel points. They've had 2 over 20, 3 over 15. They've been very solid. Eagles led 5 sacks last week, which may or may not be because of the Lane Johnson suspension. I just look at this matchup. I don't think any of the skill position players really cut it against Minnesota's defense. I'm just not a big fan of Jordan Matthews, Nelson Aguilar, the running backs. I just don't think they're good enough to kind of really overtake Minnesota. Minnesota's just been solid all year, and I think you can kind of rely on that, and they're not even the most expensive defense this week.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a really nice move at under 5K to get that Vikings D. I just don't see why, unless you really feel strong about a call, I don't know why you'd go that much lower than that. Bengals against the Browns, Cody Kessler slanging the rock to Terrell Pryor. Not confident in that?
No, I'm not. Look at this matchup. On the road here, Browns are still allowing the 8th most fantasy points per game. It should have been a better week for the Titans last week, but there was some garbage time touchdowns. Browns' lowest team total of the week. They're also allowing over 3 sacks per game. Bengals, they've been pretty lackluster on the defensive side, but playing Dallas, Pittsburgh, and New England, that's 3 tough teams they really go up against and expect a lot of defensive production. So I see them kind of bouncing back here. They are more expensive than Minnesota. That's just more if you're really trying to be different and trying to get a little bit of an edge. But I still think Minnesota is easily the top cash game play. So you can play Bengals and GPPs. That's really where I put them for the most part.
Right. In terms of tournament lineups, I guess we can take a look at the Bills here. Obviously been a dominant defense so far this year. In some spots, especially from a fantasy perspective with interceptions and turnovers. Going up against this Dolphins team, what do you see here?
If there's been a team in terms of fantasy production as good as the Vikings, it's been pretty close to the Bills in consistency, averaging the 2nd most fantasy points per game this year. This Dolphins offense, I don't expect a similar week like last week. I think with Buffalo, given their run-heavy offense, it keeps Miami off the field for the most part, and they're not a consistent, efficient offense. So Buffalo, 4 double-digit fantasy points in 6 games this year. That consistency really has been there. Miami's offensive line is horrible. You look at this Bills pass rush, I expect a lot of it to be pretty active. With Jarvis Landry, I expect, the secondary of Buffalo, which I like quite a bit, to kind of limit those guys, him and Devontae Parker. So I like Buffalo. I think they're an interesting swerve. I think there's a lot of upside there. Dolphins team total really low for being at home. So I think you can fire away with that defense.
Yeah, I like that call. Ryan Fitzpatrick and Geno Smith and the corpse of Matt Forte and my childhood friend Robbie Anderson is that's the name of a kid that grew up on your street and he was kind of a loser, but at the same time
Turns
you
out
hung out with him. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but Jets against the Ravens. What are you looking at there?
Well, Ryan Fitzpatrick pretty much sums it up. They've been awful. 2.5 turnovers per game this season. A lot of it, obviously, was pretty high because of that Chiefs game. But you look at Baltimore and 5th best defense per Football Outsiders. their only real blowout game this year has come against Oakland, so they've been pretty consistent. They are turning the ball or forcing turnovers, fifth most in the league with 1.8 per game. And I just think whoever you throw back there, Fitzpatrick doesn't even last half this week. You're getting a Geno Smith, who's arguably just as worse. So 4,800, I think, if we didn't have the Vikings this week, we'd be looking at Baltimore in cash games, but they're also another interesting swerve.
Definitely. Last one here. A nice little value, and I know I said it don't go below the Vikings, but if you do, I think you stroll directly towards the Patriots against the Steelers with the backup quarterback. What are you looking at there?
So it's about $400 to $700 cheaper than other defenses. So it's like if that helps you out, you can go for it and drop down there. Obviously, you're looking at Landry Jones, possibly Zach Mettenberger under center, which screams kind of using defenses against them. And we were talking on your pod. This is just one of those teams where, the coaching staff there with Bill Belichick, they take away your best weapons. I mean, they do their job and kind of limit really opposing, guys like AJ Green. We didn't see him do much last week. And you just look, under a 20-team total for the Steelers who are at home, I think that just shows Vegas is expecting a really mediocre game on offense, which I am as well.
Certainly. Generally speaking, what's your strategy with these five? Obviously, they're all in play, but who are you looking to use and how and where?
Minnesota is going to be the cash game defense. 100% cash. I'm not really looking to make any pivots there. I do like the Bengals and Bills and GPPs, Baltimore as well. New England's probably only going to be of use for me if it's like I can bump up like a Jeremy Maclin or someone like that to like a slightly better wide receiver, and I need that $400 to $700 difference. That's probably the only way I use them is if they give me a next kind of tier one like upgrade somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely agree there. So I think generally speaking, we're in for a better week. We said it was a bad week at defense, and it was in week 6. So I'm happy to say that we're back. As always, if you like what we're doing here on the videos or the channel, check us out on the YouTube channel. Check out the other videos. Give us a like and subscribe. If you want to read this article, head over to dailyfantasycafe.com and read the Jason Meister's work. As always, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in week 8.